So we're joined by East Forsyth's own four-star quarterback, UNC commit, Bryce Baker, as well as his lovely family. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Doing great.
Excellent. So let's get this thing rolling. Bryce, my first question for you, man, is simple. Do you know when you fell in love with football? And if you do, let us know.
I mean, I say just growing up, competing with the guys, I definitely feel like that's always something I cherish. Just the day-to-day process of it, really. I played basketball, football, also ran track, but I definitely say football stuck just from the competing aspect and then the physicality aspect. Like, I played safety and I played quarterback, so I mean, I just love making plays, always hearing my name on the intercom. So I feel like that's definitely, when I started having success with it, started continually making plays, that's when I fell in love with football.
And parents, when did you guys first realize and say, hey, I think this football thing is really going to work out for our boy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just remember being in the stands, and as a mom, to hear Bryce's name on both sides of the ball, Bryce on the tackle, Bryce throwing his receivers, and Bryce making touchdowns. It was just really awesome to see, awesome to hear. But just about every sport we exposed him to, Bryce excelled. So I just knew from the very beginning, even at 3 years old, playing soccer. He was very competitive, learned a lot, had a lot of skill, and very early on, we just knew.
Yeah, and I've actually coached Bryce. I started coaching Bryce when he was 7 years old. And when I knew Bryce was going to be special, I agree. He played safety, he played quarterback. But I think when I really saw this, when he was 9 years old, and he came up to me after one of the practices, and he said, "Dad, I want to play quarterback," because prior Bryce was playing running back. So I was like, "Okay, let's give it a shot." So we stayed after practice one day, and he was just throwing with me. And then from then on, every practice after we got done, everyone else was leaving. Bryce said, "Dad, let's stay. I want to get some extra work in." I'm like, "Okay, this kid's pretty special. He's taking this serious." So that's when I kind of knew. Other kids were ready to go home and do what kids do at 9 years old, but he wanted to stay after and get in that extra work. And I was like, okay, yeah, we got something on our hands here.
And Dad, you really led me into my next question for you, Bryce. Was just, I know you said you played quarterback and you played safety, but when did you realize, like, I want to be the quarterback, I want to be the guy with the ball in my hands all the time?
Just in the early early stages of playing football, just the ability to change the game, always having the ball in my hand, because I mean, growing up, quarterbacks didn't throw as much. I mean, we ran the ball, so just being the athlete on the team that could change the game, I definitely feel like I chose quarterback at first from that aspect, just to change the game. And then from then on, I kind of learned more about the game and learned the importance of passing. So then I just kind of fell in love with all the aspects of quarterback, not only physical, but then the leadership part. I felt like I kind of gravitated towards that 13-year-old-ish going into high school type, or going into high school season. So, I mean, just all aspects got me to gravitate towards quarterback.
And so you are the youngest, right?
I'm the youngest.
So Mom and Dad, I know you got some older boys as well. Did they play football, have a football background? Is that kind of how Bryce gravitated to sports? Just kind of, I'm the oldest,
right.
So I know how it goes. So, know, even when you think your younger sibling is not watching,
right.
He's always watching,
right.
and they want to emulate.
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
So is that something that you guys saw?
It is. Both his brothers both played sports. They both played football. And Bryce was always, like you said, he was always watching them, and I actually had an opportunity to coach them as well. But Bryce was always competitive. So even at the young age, Bryce would go out there in the backyard with his brothers, and they go after it. And they didn't take it light on him either. And I think that helped him become the competitor that he is. Because one thing about Bryce, he does not like losing. I mean, he would go over and over. I mean, he get to the point where he'd get upset if he would lose. But yeah, having them older brothers definitely helped him out a lot.
Yeah, and I just remember at a park, Bryce was out there playing with grown men, it felt like. And he was throwing up shots, and some of them were they were going in and some were not. But that didn't deter him. He was just a kid that wanted to be great, and I think he just kept trying. And so I just saw that competitive spirit, like my husband said, very early on. He wasn't afraid to even play with the bigger guys, older guys.
Yeah, and I'll add, like, not only my brothers, but that got me to playing up in age groups. When I was growing up, like, I always played a grade above, and I feel like that just built my confidence to where I'm at now.
So now, this was a pivotal move in your life, right? When you decided to make the move over to East Forsyth. parents first, I wanted to hear from you guys about the decision. Whose idea was it, and why did you think that was the number one move, the best move for your son? And then Bryce, we'll have you answer.
Well, I'll let my husband speak to that because he was very knowledgeable on the, I guess, level of competition. When we went to Walkertown, we knew the coach there, and we knew the coach would take care of Bryce. He was coming out of Forsyth Country Day. They didn't have a football program over there, and so we thought it was a nice transition to Walkertown from Forsyth Country Day. So going from Walkertown to East Forsyth was really my husband's idea, and it was related to competition.
Yeah. So we knew Bryce was he excelled in sports, and Walkertown was a great school for him. But Walkertown is 2A, and we felt like if Bryce was going to play at the next level, we wanted him playing against the best competition. And that's not to say anything bad about Walkertown, but again, they had you're talking about 2A ball versus 4A ball. So the competition over at East Forsyth, I mean, we know that they were the powerhouse in the state of, in our local area, in the state, a local powerhouse team. And we wanted to make sure that he was out there playing against better competition. I mean, what better way to get prepared for the next level than to play the best competition? So we went over and had a conversation with Coach Willard. We had a really great conversation, and at the time, Jalen Rayner was actually a senior on his way out, and Bryce was coming in, and so we felt like Coach said, "Yeah, we've looked at his film and we want him." So we went over there, and it was probably the best move that we've made. I mean, he had a great career over at East Forsyth, did big things, so it was definitely the best move for him.
And Bryce, just talk about the move. I know, as a teenager, you really care more about your friends and hanging out with your boys. Most teenagers do. Yeah. I don't know about you, so kind of speak to that. And how was that, leaving your friends and having to restart and, get your footing at East Forsyth?
Yeah, I'm all about mindset and making sure I'm on the right team where I could have a collective mindset and people around me that could push me. And I just feel like at Walkertown, I just always remember after practice, I always wanted to get throws in, and nobody really wanted to stay. I always had to bring out my quarterback net. And as a quarterback to our receiver, that chemistry has to be up there. We have to get extra work in after practice. And really none of the guys really wanted to throw after practice. So I just knew making the transition, I'd have like-minded players around me.
Excellent. And so once you get there to East, and now you're taking over for Jalen Rayner, state championship quarterback, what was that like? What was those feelings? Was there any pressure? Not only are you the new kid, the new quarterback, but then you're filling in the shoes of a guy who went on to do and is still doing great things at college level.
Nah, honestly, no pressure. I just wanted to be myself and try to better myself in this situation.
Excellent. And so once you guys really start rolling, I mean, you only lost 3 games in your career over there at East.
Yeah.
So what was it like to be there with Coach Willard? How important were those 2 years to your development, and how important is just being a part of that East Forsyth Eagle football family to your next steps?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot, and I feel like just going to that school, I accomplished my reason reason for going there. I wanted a school that was going to push me to be a better self on and off the field. And then I feel like Coach Willard, I can really speak to his coaching ability. He set a culture there, and he kind of changed the culture there from when he first got the job. And I mean, that just shows throughout our success on the field. So I'm definitely glad I made that move, and I feel like it was the right move for me.
Excellent. And so, like I said, a lot of success on the field. I'm sure a lot of success off the field as well. Let's talk about Bryce the person, right? What do the people want to know about? What do the people need to know about Bryce Baker when he's off the field? I want the parents to go first, because y'all know him better than anybody.
Yeah, I think Bryce is just a humble kid. Young man, I should say. He just is very conscientious about everything he does, from picking his friends to the things that he does to prepare for his day. I mean, he literally writes out everything that he wants to do the next day. Academically, he's gifted. From an early age, he was in classes that were challenging to him, and he handled it with a breeze. And I'm just so thankful that he has taken this path in life just to be the best he can be, because he's very determined to be a great person on and off the field.
Yeah. So how you hear some people say he's different? He's literally different, and that's in a good way. Like, Bryce is focused. He is not the type of young man that's going to get sidetracked. Bryce keeps his circle tight. I've never heard Bryce say anything bad about anyone. Sometimes when I get a little upset about stuff and I say stuff, Bryce will calm me down. Dad, don't do that. But he literally is a young man that is focused, and when he has a goal, he's going to go out and get it. I mean, there's nothing that deters him, and he always says even kill. You'll never see Bryce too high. You'll never see him too low. I remember the game they were playing one. I think it was it may have been West Forsyth when they were down, and I always look at Bryce and his demeanor on the sideline because I always tell him it's the intangibles that coaches look at as well. They want to see how you carry yourself on the sideline when you're not on the field with your players. And what other players, I think they were down, they were down by maybe 13 points maybe, but everybody else you can kind of tell like their body language was like, oh man, but he never wavered. I mean, he walked to the guys on the bench, he was patting them on the head, but he just looked confident, like, we got this. And that's what I love about him. Like, he's never gonna, until the clock reads 0, he's gonna play. He's gonna be very competitive until it's over. So he's different, and I love that about him.
Yeah.
And Bryce, man, what is the number one thing about you that you want the people to know that they might not already?
I feel like the character trait that I try to uphold the most is integrity, just to do the right thing when no one's looking. And I feel like that not only benefits me, but benefits those around me.
So now the success is happening on the field, it's happening off the field. Starting to get coaches calling, texting, mailing, any way they can get to you, DM. Mm-hmm. How was that just handling, being able to be respectful when it comes to these coaches, but I'm sure there's plenty of them like, hey, I'm really not interested in your program. I appreciate your time. Yeah. How was that being able to kind of decipher through the programs that, you're thankful for their time and their offer, but, it's not what you're looking for, and then whittling it down to those top schools that you were looking at? Yeah,
I say my family definitely helped me all throughout that process, and it overall allowed me to find peace in it. Like I had a specific or strategic method to grade each school when you're first going through the recruiting process, and just sticking to that plan allowed me to know exactly what I'm looking for in a program, and then kind of grade each program when we went on the visits and the spring practices, and just kind of observe everything from outsider kind of perspective, and then that just helped me be like purposeful in my approach to figuring out which college, and I overall found peace in it.
And I know that could be kind of nerve-wracking and annoying, especially for you guys as parents, because some coaches, they don't know their limits or boundaries, right?
Right.
And so how was that just kind of getting inundated with information and calls and whatnot?
Yeah, I dealt with that a lot. Sometimes I was wondering how people even got my phone number, but Bryce let me have access to his Twitter and stuff just so I could keep up with it. And I always told him, be respectful to people. Don't just like brush people off, because you never know where this coach may end up later in the future. But we were always respectful in our communication to him. I mean, we'd always give, for the most part, we give the coaches the time of, like, we'd speak with them, but we let them know that, we appreciate them being interested in Bryce. But at this time, we were going in another direction. But, it's just showing that we appreciate them having that interest in him. So, but yeah, it got crazy at one point. It was every day someone was calling, trying to get him to come on campus. But we handled it very well as a family.
And we did receive some advice when we're actually helping Bryce navigate his emails and everything. We were always told that Bryce makes decisions as a team. So he wouldn't have to take that on by himself, just a kind of decision on the spot when someone asks a bit of his time or for him to come visit or whatnot. So we always told Bryce, just learn to say no. Sometimes you can learn to say no and say, I make decisions as a team, and we'll get back to you in 48 hours. So that was really important to kind of allow him to have that time to think, give him a little bit of peace before jumping into situations he didn't necessarily want to be in.
A little background on me, right? I've got a lot of friends that went through this similar process. Mine wasn't at as high of a level, but I went through a similar process as well. And I talked to a whole bunch of kids since I've been doing this about the process of being recruited and choosing a school. You're the first one I've ever heard say you had a grading scale. Can you kind of break down what your grading scale was for these different universities?
Yeah, so my biggest aspect was the style or how the team kind of interacted with each other. There always has to be a balance between competition and off-the-field camaraderie. And you had some teams that had great camaraderie in the locker room, and then other teams it was all about competition. And next year I'm just focused on myself. I'm going to transfer, and I just feel like you can't really build championships that way. So I was able to observe that from going to spring practices. Another is their development on myself. Like, just like advice, like you kind of have to be selfish in a sense in this recruiting process to make sure you pick the right university that's going to actually develop you. So that was really big on my list. Like I wanted a place that had established results of being able to develop quarterbacks. And then I say the last was just really the head coach, because I feel like the head coach sets the standard at universities, and the culture he brings, just you can feel it throughout the whole building, and that's what the team is built on. So those are the top 3.
Excellent. I like that.
Yeah.
I might steal that. I might cut that and send that out to a couple young men. But speaking of coaching, right? So you made your official verbal commitment to UNC 2023, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that's Mac Brown, and just following the footsteps of Drake May and Sam Howell, 2 guys that were selected and drafted to the NFL. I'm sure that's what your goal is at this point. So talk about your initial verbal commitment to UNC, and what was it about that program that made you want to do it, and then we'll kind of talk about the recent developments.
Yeah, I say at first, we definitely took in consideration the distance. Another reason I feel like the offensive coordinator, we just had a really good relationship, and I felt like I could trust him on and off the field, which is something I want in an offensive coordinator, because I'm going to be with him really every day, and he's going to be helping me develop and reach the goals I want to be at. So definitely the relationships I built with that coaching staff. And then as far as the players, I felt like I was able to bond with those players easier than other colleges I visited.
And so what was you guys' first initial reaction? I know you guys are a team, so it was something I'm sure you guys talked about before he made it official with a verbal commitment to UNC. But what was it from the parents' perspective? What was it about Chapel Hill that you guys really wanted to lock in with?
Definitely the location. As a mom,
I'm picking up a thing.
I'd like to be able to, go and see about Bryce if he needs us. So that was a plus for us. But I really think when he decided to choose Chapel Hill, we were just elated that it was a prestigious school like Chapel Hill. They have a huge alumni base. I think even just going to that school outside of athletics, he would do well. He'd have lots of options, after he gets his degree. So for me, it was just the prestige of the school. UNC is a great school, great alumni base, and the location. But loved his decision.
Yeah, so one thing we've always told Bryce as well is that if you were not playing football, is this a university that you would attend outside of sports? And he said yes. And I think when we went on campus and we met Mac Brown and the staff, we just felt the love. I mean, it was genuine. We always say, want who wants you. Not just lip service, but when they show it in their actions. One who wants you, and they truly showed that they really wanted Bryce. And so from that perspective, then we started looking at, what UNC had to offer. And he loved their business school. I mean, we got a tour of the school, and everything was just, it laid out perfectly for us. And of course, again, location was, being able to go an hour to be able to go see him play, that was big as well.
You a baby? You a big baby?
Nah, I'm not.
He's pretty independent. He's my baby, but he's independent.
So my little brother, he a big baby, so I just wanted to just check the temperature, see how he's feeling. But so it's been an eventful last couple of weeks for you guys.
Absolutely.
So you make the commitment to UNC. You play pretty much the majority of your senior year, and then the news comes down that the head coach that you had built this relationship was no longer going to be there, Mac Brown. What was that like when that news came down, and then there was that period of time, about a week, where there was no head coach, and just everything was kind of in limbo and a lot of speculation.
Right.
Yeah. Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Distinctly remember it. We got nothing done that day. But yeah, it was a shocker. It was because of the reputation of Mac Brown and just what he brought to the program over the years. We respected him quite a bit. Like my husband said, we really had a relationship for the last 2 years. We trusted him. We trusted the staff. So to see that he was not going to be there, that was a big shocker. So we were just patiently waiting, trying to figure out what the next direction of the university was going to be. And again, Bryce took it upon himself to kind of look at other options.
Yeah. So you start hearing rumors that Mac Brown's not going to be there, and we're like, yeah, no, he's going to be there. We already know he's not going anywhere. So when it happened, yeah, that took us. We had to take a step back and like, wow, he's really not going to be there anymore. And prior to that, Penn State had been showing interest in Bryce a lot. And then LSU came in the picture, and they started reaching out. So when we found out that Mac wasn't going to be there, and Bryce having a great relationship with, the staff there, we just kind of said, okay, maybe this is an opportunity for us to go ahead and start taking visits and seeing what other schools had to offer. So we went to Penn State, and we had a great visit. Danny O'Brien, who was a former quarterback at East Forsyth, had that relationship. So we had a great visit there. It was everything you can ask for. It's definitely a football school. So we came back, we had a conversation. We just kind of wanted to wait until all the news came down, like what's going to really happen. And then you start hearing, Belichick, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like, really, that's not going to happen. And then, of course, when you kept hearing it over and over again, and then they finally announced it, and we're like, wow, okay, so now let's talk about this thing again. So yeah, it was interesting, but just seeing Mac Brown let go, that was not something that we expected, but I always feel like everything happens for a reason.
I'll just be honest. I feel like they were way more stressed than I was in the situation, and that just shows the love that they have for me, and I appreciate that. But I'll get to why I chose UNC kind of over Penn State, and I just feel like with Coach Belichick being there now, he has a next tier of networks and experiences dealing with kind of where I want to go, be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's firsthand experienced that. So I just feel like he has another level of accountability that he can hold me to.
What was it like when you got that phone call?
Yeah, it was super cool. We set up a Zoom call an hour after his initial press conference, which is crazy and shows that I was kind of priority to him and how invested he is in the team, which is cool, and I have my whole family on it, and I appreciate them for that.
And to know you were the first signee for Bill Belichick and his tenure at Carolina, regardless of how this thing goes, so much flexibility to the portal or whatever, but to know that'll always be you and that'll be your name attached to Bill Belichick and his first signee coming to Chapel Hill. How cool is that? Just to,
super cool, already making history there.
And then parents, just to know that, we got a man that has the blueprint, right?
Yeah.
Has, like Bryce said, been there firsthand with some of the greatest, and is ready to pour into your son. How important is that?
Right. Oh, that's very important. As a parent, to have someone that of his caliber and his experience level and decorated with Super Bowl championships, I think that's exactly what Bryce needed. And for me, I think God designed it that way. He stayed committed for 2 years. He waited to see what was going to happen. He didn't jump early just because of what the other option had. And I believe just thinking it through and waiting and just trying to have a good evaluation of what the direction was going to be at the university. That's how God designed it for Bryce to take that look and say, okay, now that they've named Belichick as the head coach, is this somebody that I can relate to, someone that could develop me? And yeah, I think he's the perfect person to be able to do that.
Yeah, and just during the call, a lot of people see Belichick, he's doing his press conference and he's stern and he's serious, but we got to see the other side of him. He's really personable. We just think he's an introvert, but he's really personable. And during the conversations, Bryce asked the hard questions. He asked Belichick the hard questions. It was how are you going to develop me? Not just give me, I'm going to make you the best quarterback in college. How? He asked those questions. And then the next thing is, how are you going to what is your plan to put like-minded players around me? And I'll say this, if everything goes through as Belichick as he wants it, I think Carolina's going to get turned around real quick because he definitely has a plan. And as you can already see, the transfer portal, he's getting them in there. So, yeah.
And so let's talk about Saturday at Chapel Hill. How was that? Just the reception that you got from, the fan base in the Dean Dome, one of the most historic sporting venues that the world has to offer, and they were on their feet clapping for you.
Yeah, it was super cool, and we didn't know about it until after the meeting with Coach Belichick. He set that all up, which kind of is proof that he's invested in the team, invested in this recruiting thing. So it was super cool. Got out there. What I said was off the top of my head, but I was very confident in it, and it was super cool, yeah.
And just to see,
oh my God,
it was electric. It was electric. And to see the love, I just thought he did a fantastic job to have an impromptu speech like that. It just seemed to just be natural for him.
Yeah, so. It was actually a surreal moment for me. To be able to see him go out there in front of all those people and go out there and get the welcome that he received, and then to just be able to, off the top of his head, just speak in front of everyone with confidence, which we know he's a great speaker, but like I would have been nervous. But he handled it like a pro. And then afterwards, you know, they were done coming back up to where we were sitting, it took them a while. And the guy who was with Bryce said it's because everybody wanted his autograph and they wanted to take pictures with him. And he asked Bryce, do you want me to kind of like tell them, no, we want to go back? And he said, Bryce told him, no, I don't want to do that, which I thought was great. So that's how you build your fan base. But he did a really good job, so we're super proud of him.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos, some of the clips. I was very proud of you.
Yeah,
you know, especially 40,000 in the house, that Michael Jordan built.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's probably did better than me there. But I think that's about it. Brian, you got anything else? All right, I think that's gonna do it. I appreciate you guys' time so much.
welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And good luck to you. And we'll be watching and we'll be rooting for you for sure.
Thank you for
man.
the
We
support
appreciate it.
and
Absolutely.
the coverage.
Yes.